Okay, let's welcome back Coach Melvin. He is an assistant coach at Burlington Central High School. He was the head coach there for a little bit, jumped to the college ranks, and now he's back with high school. Coach, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always fun.
Yeah, well, I'll be seeing Coach Thursday whenever this, I don't know when this comes out, but we'll have a joint practice. Coach will kick my ass, and they'll go home and then be done with it. I told Sabo and
Try,
Yost, I was like, make me look good, man.
yeah, I hopefully get some golf in after. Any good golf courses out there?
I'll ask our assistant or our offense coordinator golfs all the time. I'll ask him.
Does he?
He was just at the
I
Elgin.
went.
He was just in Elgin, actually.
Okay. Yeah, we have some nice courses out here. Uh, I told Yost one of my conditions of coming back is I'm never riding the bus again. So
That's a good one. Yes.
yeah, let's see if that works. It lasted on a team camp last week, but let's see if he lets me do it again Thursday.
Yeah, I kind of said the same thing when I got to Addison. I was like, I'm not doing the bus no more. And then last year something happened where I was only like next coached in line, if you go down the
Right,
pecking order, and I had to ride the bus, and it just happened to be the time we had to go to freaking Morton. So we're on the
oof,
bus for like an hour and 15 minutes. And I'm like,
right.
this bus ride you give me that I have to sit here. Because you had coaches that immediately had to leave right after. And I was just like, I'll do it.
Yeah, just like I'll do it. Yeah, even when I was at Judson last year and all of our away trips, I always rode with coaches in the car.
Mhm,
I've been on the bus for 27 years and
mhm,
I'll do it. I will do anything that I'm told to do. But that's one thing I'm just like, oh, the bus is just so hot. You'd think they
mhm.
put air conditioning in at some point, but
Yeah. Uh, I get to drive to all that stuff too in the summer, except the Bears outreach program does a 7-on-7, and we went there
yeah.
and we had to drive the minibus, and there was no other coaches around. So it was me and the head coach. I drive the minibus, and he said, if you do this, you don't have to ride the bus this year. I'm like, you got it. I'll drive this minibus twice
Yeah.
and we're good to go. So, like, we just were at Matia last week. So
How are they? How are they doing?
they're good. This is the biggest offense and defensive line that Coach Parpit's had there. Um, Old man Coach Parpit's helping them out. He's doing the O line. So he's still coaching, but they're doing good. They look pretty good. Their line was huge, um, and they're physical. It was our first day of like hitting, so that was a good
Mm.
introduction to like, hey, here's hitting and what it's going to look like, and they got some numbers. So, but that's a tough that's a tough schedule too. But
Yeah, I
good.
applied for that job. I interviewed for that job when it's Parpet, right? Got it.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yep.
I didn't know necessarily if I wanted it, but I wanted to keep my interview skills uh, fresh. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I got an interview, and yeah, it's fun. I enjoy interviewing. I like to talk about building a program. That's what I feel like I'm good at. So
Yeah. Yeah. Doing a good job there, but again, Matia's tough because you got to share kids with Wabanzi and Nequa, and
East
yeah,
Aurora, and yeah,
or they move right down the street and go to Naperville North, or a certain spot there and go to Central and
mm,
204 redistrict. So they redistrict last year, and they came out to us, and just the redistricting, he lost 20 players just by the redistricting, and so,
so
but I mean, last year they won 2 or 3 games, so it was moving in the right direction. So it'll take
mm.
time. Uh,
Yeah, it's a weird mix. It's a weird mix. The school of where all those kids come from to go to Matia. You have that big neighborhood right there, and then you have kids on the east side of Aurora. It's kind of weird mix there.
yeah, because
I wish them the best.
I live right down the street from Matia. Like I live in Naperville, but literally if I go 2 minutes down the street, I'm in Aurora. It's very weird how it's set up.
Right.
And we were just at the West Aurora Battle of the Big Butts, and I realized as I'm driving back, like here's the cutoff for like East Aurora, then it starts into Matia. Then if I go right down the road, it starts the cutoff for Wabanzi. So how it's all set up is very strange
Yeah.
with
How did
that.
Wabanzi do last year?
They're down a little bit. I have a buddy that coaches there. I think they went 0-9. Like it was very, very weird to see them
Yeah.
go 0-9. Just a little rough patch. Uh, Nequa was Nequa. They did their thing.
Mm.
Naperville North did their thing. Central did their thing. Uh, DeKalb was a little down too. That whole conference was weird, but in that conference, they got to play a team twice. So, like, however the standings are in the DVC, they got to play them again at the end of the year. So, like, Matia played Nequa twice. So it
Oh
was,
my gosh.
so it's an automatic, like, and then our conference, we have like two sides, and we used to have a permanent crossover. We finally got rid of it because our permanent crossover was Glenbard West. And so I came in and I was like, why is that the permanent crossover? We are two completely different worlds right now.
Right.
Addison is not Glenbard West. So they finally got rid of it. So then now we can finally play like a non-conference that's set to us. But you always have a rolling crossover. So you'll play a team for 2 years and then somebody else for 2 years. Now it's Proviso West this year. So it's like set up where we're not playing Glenbard West, or we had to play Lions
Yeah.
Township last year. So it's like we don't have to play the freaking big schools.
Right. What are you guys, 5A?
We be 5 or 6A. We have 1,900 kids.
Okay.
But we're fighting for kids. Like, I could sit here and say we have 1,900 kids in the school. We'll come
Yeah.
in with 35 kids on the varsity team. Like, it's our percentages are low. Like, it's like 20 some percent or 26% of the students play sports. So it's like trying to get them to play sports. It's trying to promote. I don't know the numbers exactly. Chris
Right.
would know better, our head coach. It's COVID hurt. COVID, we were a school where COVID really pushed it back, because when I showed up during COVID, I got hired. I swear, me and the D line coach looked at each other. We were looking at the kids. Not saying we had a ton, but we looked and we're like, oh, there's like 20 some older kids for linemen. We can have just an offensive line, just a defensive line. And we were so excited. And
Right.
it was like that October. And then when the spring hit, everything got cut in half. Like, we were like, oh, we no longer, like, all the kids went to work or they did this, they weren't going to play. And now it's just trying to build it back, like get the pieces back. I would say we're like a year behind. Like, I feel like if this COVID never happened, we'd be in a better spot. But because that set us back probably another year of like trying to get everything there.
Yeah, we were just talking about COVID the other day at practice. Um, it actually helped our program. Um, we played well without a quarterback that spring season. We almost beat Cary Grove that week one. And then I think once kids were able to play sports again, we were the first sport to be back.
Uh-huh.
So the parents were like, get out of the house. So
Right.
we actually gained a lot of numbers. When I took over at Central, we had 75 in the entire program, maybe like 35 on varsity. And then we got moved over to the Fox Valley, which was insane as you're trying to build a program.
Right.
But the year I left, which I was at Judson last season, so the year before, I left with 120 guys in the program.
Wow.
And that was not just because of me; it was because of Yos and Coach Sco and Coach Sabo. We just, I like to say, just put our foot on the ground and just our head down and just started going. Built a tremendous relationship with our youth program, and like we just had our kids camp, and I was laughing at Yost because my first year I think I had 18 kids. We had 100. We had like 120 kids at our
Wow.
youth camp. So it's really loud, but it was great. I mean, it's great for the program. It's great for the community.
Yeah. I don't know. Our youth program's all over the place. We're getting a good relationship, but our youth program, I kind of don't care who hears this. You'll have kids come that aren't Addison. Like, when I first looked, there was a quarterback that was really good. He's from Rockford, and I'm like, you're coming all the way from Rockford out to Addison to play on your youth program, or like you have some neighbor. Now, there's a lot of Addison kids. Don't get me wrong, but then
Right.
the teams that do pretty well usually have like a Naperville kid, or it's going to have a Lake Park kid, or whatever. And so we're trying to build it up. We're trying to have this communication. Like, here soon we'll have like a coaches thing where we're going to meet with the youth coaches, and like, I do the O-line. So I'm going to meet with anybody that does O-line and say, this is what we do. This is how I do it. Like, we got to get on that program. Like, the same thing. Like I said,
we spent hours on the phone with them, just teaching them our system. We didn't really want them necessarily we wanted them to run our plays, but we wanted them to just understand the terminology more than anything. Coming up what our running back was just that type of stuff.
Right.
What do we call the Sam, or the Rocket or whatever it is. So just hours. It was fun, and they were all in. So
Yeah, we'll host a camp with the coaches, and like our players run the camp, and because we did a
right,
speed and agility one already for them, then we'll do an actual one here at the end of July. Because we only go 3 days a week. We do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Because like we were talking about,
yeah,
we're done battling with trying to get them there at 7 a.m. so we don't go till about 9. We're done battling that. We're done battling the travel baseball stuff. So we just said, you know what? We're done. And like our head coach has 4 kids at home. And he's like,
yeah,
miss them growing up in the summer. So if you guys aren't going to commit to a Monday or Friday, we'll do Tuesday through Thursday, but we're going to work hard. Don't get me wrong.
mm,
Like we're going to get a lot done. We're there 9 to 12. We got to do chalk talks. We got to do this. It was just extra, but we're just done battling it. And so the same thing with the kids camp. We're done battling this stuff. So it's only going to be 3 days instead of all week. And you guys are going to work it. Well, like we're just changing it all. We're done battling stuff. So we're like,
right,
you're the ones on the field, not us anymore. Type of
right.
mentality. Like we're going to do what we want. Like we get there an hour early to meet before you guys show up. Like we do all these things. You're the ones playing. So a lot of them might go in 3 days a week, but some of them are like, hey, can we come in on Monday? And we're like, well, too bad because a lot of you don't want to.
And you guys lose a lot of kids to all those Catholic schools out there, or the private schools, or whatever it is. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
have
That's the other thing.
Montini's right there, right?
IC's right there.
Yeah, IC is going to be really good this year. I heard.
They they will go to a youth game and watch and try to get
Yeah,
those kids.
yeah, and that's why I left Judson too. Is I loved it there. Funny story. Um, Unfortunately, after the season, Coach Pap got let go, and we all got put into a room with the president and he said, "Okay, Coach Pap is gone. You guys are all gone as well. You have the opportunity to interview for your job back." And I'm in the meeting, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I just got fired for the first time in my life." I'd never been. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I didn't have to be here. Like I chose to step down and go to Judson. Um, for various reasons. And one is because I wanted to be a part of a college football team, and
Hmm.
I wanted to learn offense from Coach Pap. And Judson's in my hometown. Like I grew up in Elgin, so I felt as if there was a college football a team in my hometown. I had to be a part of it. So same day, the new coach, Coach Q, got hired, and he goes, "What's it going to take for you to come back?" I'm like, "More money." He goes, he's like done. So in like a 3 hour range, I got fired, rehired, and a raise. So it was kind of cool. So I coached through the spring, and my older kids now live with me full time. And so I also have 4 kids in the house. And my son plays volleyball, high school volleyball. They're in the spring. Other son plays baseball. My other daughter's in acting, and the youngest one's in dance. And I'm sitting here coaching football while my wife's driving all around. And she does a fantastic job. Like, cannot do this without her. But I'm like, my kids need me at home, and I can't be in Michigan when my son has a football game on a Saturday. So Yost knew that. Yost knew I was kind of teeter tottering. It was just a hard spring, and he just pushed and finally sent me what I could probably say now, and he would laugh too, as a love letter. uh, and because he had asked me before, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to stay and see what happens. And then he wrote me this love letter, and I was like, you know what? I showed it to my wife. I'm like, you know what? He's right. And uh, I called him and I said, all right, let's meet, and talked. And I wanted to stay at Judson. I really did. It was just too hard on the family. I drove 22,000 miles in 1 year recruiting.
Oh,
And, it was tough. And I get it. Like, that's what you have to do. And I was all in. Um, but once I had that family dynamic change, it really kind of made it a little harder. And also, like, I tried to deny it, but I missed Friday nights. The Saturdays were great. The staff at Judson that fall was phenomenal. Like, we had the greatest guys. We coached hard. We didn't really have a quarterback. So it was tough, but I coached running backs, and my running back was an All-American, unbelievable football player. Holy cow. and even the recruiting, I did well in recruiting as well. I signed 14 kids this spring, which was the highest one on the staff. And it's just, I had to tell them, like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not, I know I recruited you, but I'm not coming back.
Uh-huh.
And, but I told them, I said, it's family reasons, and they all understood. So Judson's going to be fine. Coach Q is doing a great job. Um, and, I'm curious to see how well they do this year, but they'll definitely be better.
Um, was that like the toughest adjustment? Was like the recruiting part of it when you switched over, or were you already kind of used to it from trying to build programs in the past at
Mm-hmm.
high schools?
So it wasn't, people ask me that all the time. Yes and no. So yes, because it was consistent. It
Uh-huh.
was like it was like ants in a kitchen. My my DMs would just be like ding, ding, ding,
Yep.
ding, ding. And when I first got the job, I tried to answer every single kid. And finally I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, Lindsay, I can't do this.
You're
Like
right.
this is I can't just respond to every single DM that I get. And if there are any players listening right now, I've found good ways and bad ways to try to contact a college coach. Don't just say, "What up, dog? Here's my film." That's not a good way to contact me. Um, so there's, people, it would go from that to like very well written emails, and if they took time to write something well, I would read it, watch their film. Um, don't make your film highlights too long. Realistically, we watch like a minute and a half of them. That's all we really need.
Mhm.
Sometimes 10 seconds. Like, yeah, no. But, but on the other side of it, it was easy for me because two reasons. It was twofold. Um, One is because, yes, I'm used to recruiting and building
Mhm.
programs. So that was easy. That part was easy. And then the second part was I'm a member of the Illinois High School Football Coaches Association. I sat on the All State Committee. I do a lot of the Hall of Fame stuff still. That booklet that you guys all get when you go to the state clinic down at U of I make that book.
Mhm.
Um, and then all the ads and the congratulating all the Hall of Famers, like I solicit all that. And then I finally got Jeff Belk at Buffalo Grove. He helps me now the last couple of years, which thank God, because it's such a hard job. But it was mostly that. It was my friends calling me and say, "Hey, I got a guy," and
Mhm.
it's just under the radar guys, and that's what we are at NAIA. And I would be able to give them money to come play football.
Mhm.
And so, and if at Judson, if you're able to commute, I could probably get you to Judson for free, and that I could get it down to just room and board, and then you commute, and then you're for free. So it was hard because it was so consistent, but
Mhm.
it was easy because I was used to it, and I had just a bunch of friends out there throwing kids at me. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, because you stayed as a counselor at Central, though, right? As you were doing that.
Oh yeah. I wanted to, I just want to coach football, right?
Yeah.
And they asked me, and I'm just like, I mean, you guys can close down tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know anything about the universities yet, and I have a family, and I need a
Right.
fallback. So, yeah, I was counselor at Central, still am, and Judson's just about 20-25 minutes down the road, and would shoot over there. And you know, the difference is in high school you get to go home
Mhm.
after practice. In college, we're in the office, we're watching film, we're planning for the next day.
Mhm.
So I was getting home at like 8:30 every night. Again, when my kids are home alone, not alone, but with my wife, she needs a break as well.
Right.
So there's a lot of factors.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why some people get out of coaching altogether. Has been family, or it's just too stressful. I know a lot of people getting out.
Speaking of kids, can you hold on 1 second? He's calling my name
Absolutely.
to know where his work shirt was.
Go find it
He had
yourself.
to, yeah, I had to know where his. Can I borrow your car? If anybody has a car out there, we need a car for my 16-year-old. My gosh. Um, so yeah, that was a lot of time, and I loved every minute of it. It wasn't like I hated that part of it. It was just I needed to be home, and I feel like a lot of the young coaches today, they don't understand
Mhm.
that commitment part of it. And maybe it was all the guys that I used to work for, like Coach Monken and Coach Becker and all my mentors, Coach Bennett. But like you just put your head down and work because that's what you're supposed to do for the kids.
Hmm.
And a lot of these guys now are like, oh, I need to be a coordinator. Well, why? What have you done? What have you done to get up to that point? Um, and I kind of take it to the 90s Bulls. They had to overcome the Pistons at some point, right?
Right.
Some guys just want to make those dream teams. And it's like, no, I got to work for it. And I hope that these new teachers that get in start coaching or do something, do clubs, don't just we tell the kids that all the time, just don't go to school and go home, like get
Hmm.
involved. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to give up one of the sports eventually. I do all three. One of them I'll have to give up at some point because
Yeah.
the summer's where I have most time. Well, even June. June's busy as hell. July is
Right.
the best because I just do football. That's it. I'm gone
Mhm.
9 to, you know, technically 8:30 to 12, then I come home.
Right.
And Zoom's great and fun. Zoom and phones are great because if there's anything, the head coach can call me. We can talk for a minute, or the OC FaceTimes me, and I just hop on and we talk. Like it's
Mhm.
great. We don't have to
Right.
sit there forever and discuss things. Now during the season, we will sometimes. You'll know, you just sit there and you just end up talking. But
Yeah.
in the summer, we can just go home and do what we need to
Right.
do.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I don't have kids, so I don't know that yet.
Well, I have 4 of them and it's fun. Our house is crazy
Well,
all the time.
our head coach has 4, and the head baseball coach has 4.
Oh my gosh. And add on, we got a COVID puppy like everybody else did, and he's got separation anxiety. And if we're not home, he freaks. So it's just constant chaos here, but it's a fun chaos. My family's off.
Well, it keeps you on your toes. You always got something to do.
Oh yeah, they're always lying. One of them's lying, trying to get out of something. So
um,
yeah.
so was there anything in the short time at college you learned that you could bring back for yourself, or was it flip flopped? Like, hey, I learned this in high school. I brought this to college.
Both. Um, so Coach Pap had hired me to help build the culture of the program.
Uh huh.
So I remember one meeting, one of my DBs looked at me and goes, "You know what, Coach? You really changed the culture of the program." And I go, "Holy cow! Like I did it." If I had one leader kid say that, and I think it was because I put like a Jordan shirt on on a spirit shop, but at the same time, like that's what I was brought there to do, and I thought that I was successful. Had I spent more time there with that original staff, I thought that we could have done a lot more because we had a lot of plans in the works.
Hmm.
But we're trying to stay afloat as a program as well. Um, and when you're a brand new program like that, there's a lot of growing pains.
Hmm.
For example, I remember Coach was pregame, and Coach Pap was looking around. He's like, Brian, he goes, the support staff had never run a football game before, right? And they're like, well, just look around, see if we're missing anything. And there was about 5 minutes left of the game, and I look around, and I go, oh man, there's not like pads on the goalpost, So I'm like, we should probably put pads on the goalpost. So there's just stuff like that. But on the opposite end, I was just golfing with Coach Pap a couple weekends ago, and I'm going to be with him again on Saturday. We're golfing in the X, Saint not Saint X, Saint Francis Joliet golf
Hmm.
outing because the defense coordinator Judson went over to Saint Francis and invited us. So um, I was sitting at practice with Yost the other day, and we're just talking, and I was coaching individual running backs, and I was saying things that I had never said before, and I didn't realize I was saying them. And I told Pat this, and I'm like, "Where did I learn this?" Oh, last year listening to Pap talk because he's
Hmm.
so smart. Um, and I didn't even realize that I was absorbing it until
Hmm.
I got back to the high school ranks. I was like, "Oh, I did." Because I didn't think at one point that I was learning anything. Just because you just get into the groove of coaching football. But yeah, I did, and to learn from him was awesome. He's now the offense coordinator at St. Francis Wheaton,
Hmm.
and he's just so good. He's so good at what he does, um, and I learned so much from him.
Uh, has a feel to be back with Central, but just as an assistant, you don't have all the other pressure on top of you. It's just like,
Yeah,
hey, just come coach. Yo,
Yeah.
yo, since
It's,
your time.
I laugh at him sometimes. I'm like, I don't have to do that anymore. But it's weird. It's not weird because um, it's hard to explain. I hired all those guys. I
Right.
brought them in because I knew they were good people. Sco has been with me since we were at East Aurora, and when he wrote me that love letter, he said, he goes, Brian, it's nothing different. It's the three of us because it was always me, Sco, and Yost made decisions together.
Mhm.
He goes, it's just the three of us again, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Um, and you know, do I have moments? Yeah, I have moments. Like, yeah, this used to be my program. It
Mhm.
still is, right? I'm just play a different role in it. And but if it was a different staff, I don't think I could have gone back to Central.
Mhm.
I did turn down a couple jobs, um, pretty prominent big jobs too, to go back to Central, and just because that's what my family needs right now,
Mhm.
and it's what my life needs. And uh, there's a I told Yost the other day, there's varsity was out and the freshman sophomore were in the weight room and they were running out, and I heard a kid go, whether it was a freshman or sophomore, I don't know, and is that Coach Melvin? I thought he got fired. I'm like, no, buddy, I didn't get fired. I just stepped away for a year and now I'm back. Um, but again, if it wasn't the guys that are still there with me, it would be weird, but it's not. I do get to coach more. I don't
Mhm.
think that kids actually really saw me coach it when I was the head coach, because I just didn't, because I
Mhm.
couldn't, and I had great coaches to do it. Now I'm just one of those assistants that are just coaching. It's fun. It's a blast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
because
assuming I'm going to get that question a lot
I was gonna
once school
say,
starts. Yeah.
well, I was gonna ask on Thursday and just be like, oh, now you got to answer to this guy. I was gonna have some fun with it, but
Yeah, for
I
sure.
thought I'd jump on it early because I was thinking that I was like, if you didn't know the head coach, you probably wouldn't. You'd be like, I don't
No.
know. But since you already
Yeah.
know them and you kind of help them along the way, you could just kind of slide in and be like, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here because I have this
Yeah.
experience and everything else. And you
Yeah. And
know,
I even asked the other day, I go, you know what? Maybe I sit up in the press box this year. I've never sat in the press box.
okay.
I don't know if I'm going to this year, but I might, and I just help in different ways now.
When I was an OC at 25, I hated it. Going. I went to the box for 2 games, hated it, came back down. When I was
Yeah.
calling plays, I was like, I gotta come back down. Hated it.
Yeah. I don't think as a defense coordinator I could ever sit up in the box, but I think as an offensive coordinator I could. And I'm not the offensive coordinator at all. I'm just saying, I'd be able to help Bry by sitting up there. And I think
Yeah.
it's a little warmer in the the cold weather.
Well, that was the only time I wanted to go back when it was raining. I'd be like, all right, let's switch. I'll go to the box now.
Yeah,
You guys go down
right.
there.
I
Yeah.
told my son, I said, buddy, I might be going up in the press box. He started crying. He's like, no, you're better on the field. I wanted, and then basically it came down to he wanted to be able to stand on the sidelines. So,
Ah,
yeah,
well, you can go on for the press box, but it's boring
exactly. Yeah, it's boring.
and there's fans yelling at you.
Yeah, yeah. So no, overall, it's been a blast this summer. I just being again with my guys. It's fun.
Well, then it seems like Central turned a corner because your guys' indoor facility and stuff is super nice. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
hopefully
new or
well, it's about four. It was right before COVID, so maybe about 4 years. But we're getting so big, we're just busting at the seams. Hopefully, this referendum passed in the next election, and we get a brand new high school down the road. So, which with all top tier facilities, and you know, we struggle a little bit on our outside facilities, and everybody knows it's not a lie. It's just it is what it is, and the kids really persevere through it. Um, but it's weird for me being on turf all last year,
Mhm.
every day, every game, and now I'm on grass, and our grass today was pretty long because of the rain, and
Mhm.
my shoes were getting all wet, my socks are all wet. I'm like, where's the turf? I miss the turf.
Well, when we were talking to Yos and Sabo at the other day, um, we were discussing how this joint practice is going to work. Is you're coming, Ridgewood's coming, and West
Mm,
Chicago, and we were discussing with them like,
right.
hey, let's just do this. And I looked at Chris, our head coach. I was like, do you want one on the game field and one on the other turf? And Sabo and them go, wait a minute, what do you mean second turf? I'm like, we have two
Hey,
turf fields. And they're like,
right.
what? And we're like, yeah, we have our game field, then we have a practice, like another
Mhm.
for soccer, and then like we could practice on it. And they walked away from us. They were like, we can't get one turf field, and they walked.
Yeah, yeah. My son played at Addison Trail, youth football league. Played them, and I was like, man, they have multiple turf fields.
And we're
It just
struggling with
helps.
numbers.
Yeah,
You would think that would help, but we struggled. But it was just
yeah,
funny. He was like, "You guys got two?" I
yeah.
was like, "Hey, that was before I got there." I said, "I was at
Right.
Aurora. Leave me alone." He's like, "We
Yeah,
didn't have two."
yeah, yeah. I loved my time at East Aurora so much. It was so great, and I know Nick's doing such a great job. I actually should call him. I haven't talked to him in a while.
I saw him that day too. We saw him and went up and talked to him a little bit. He's feeling pretty good about their team. He said it's just again numbers. It's a numbers game.
Right.
The upstate eight's changing. It's going to change after this year.
To
Um,
what?
Ridgewood, Burlington's or uh, not
I
Burlington.
wish.
Yeah, Ridgewood, Riverside Brookfield, Elmwood Park, and oh my gosh, who's the other team? There's another team. They're all going to the upstate eight. So now they're bursting, and so now they have to make it kind of like the West Suburban, where it's two sides. And
Mhm.
I think they're going to go by division. So it's basically East Aurora, all of the Elgin schools. Then you're going to have like Lombard East, West Chicago, Ridgewood, Burlington, or Ridgewood, then all of them on that side, Lombard South. So it's just splitting, and then they got to find one or two non-conference games now. Oh, West Aurora's coming back. That's the other one. West
Oh,
Aurora,
they are
yes.
good, good, good for West Aurora.
So that it's changing, and so it's going to make this is the last year where it's going to be normal where they play everybody, and then it's got to be split. So it's a one non-conference game, I think, and then they got to have a crossover.
Okay.
So it's going to be tough on them now because they got to play, South Elgin, Bartlett, West Aurora, and all of them, and
Right.
it's a little tough. Then they got to find a non-conference. I think he's stealing our non-conference because we played Maine East last year, the first game.
Mhm.
We're going to play them again this year. We heard a rumor they're going to go play East Aurora, and they hadn't said anything to us. So we asked Nick, and he goes, "Yeah, I think we are." And we were like, "Huh? They won't tell us that because we played them for the first time last year, and we won, which was exciting for us because we were a struggling program. We're like, oh, we got to win, yay!"
Mhm.
And
Right.
so they're going to go play East Aurora, and I'm like, "No offense, you're playing the same team. We're all the same." I was like,
Right.
"Us and East Aurora are like the same team. Like East Aurora just has more kids in their school." But still,
Mhm.
like out of 4,000 kids, they're still getting only like 30 some varsity players.
Right.
But yeah, I loved it. Nick's a great guy. Talked to him for a
Yeah.
while, doing good things. He's so committed to that program. He had an opportunity to leave when Wabanzi
I
job came
know.
open, and he's going to stay there and do it. They're so close.
Yeah. And he knows this. I thought he should have went to Abanzi. I called him. I told him to take the job. And that's just Nick though. He's so passionate about East Aurora. And when I left, that's why I was so adamant about him getting that job.
Mhm.
I felt that he was the only one that could continue and add on to what we had started there.
Mhm.
Um, because when I started there, oh man, it was a disaster. Um, and now I'm proud of I'm proud of what we did there at East Aurora. The stadium, the kids, the youth program, the just the overall change in culture uh, to make football important there. And he still has his struggles, but it's I'm proud. It's one of I always talk about this is the best 4 years of my coaching career. Really was there.
Well, that's why I went there for the 1 year. I applied for the Addison job too when it came open. Um, didn't get it, obviously. Chris got it, but they liked my coaching background. So like the AD and him even talked to me. So I was talking to them, saw them at the clinic in that February, and then COVID hit. So I'm just thinking in my head, well, I'm not going anywhere, blah, blah, blah. At East Aurora, they wouldn't let us meet with kids on Zoom. It was very strange. Like me and Nick
I
tried
remember Nick told me that. Yeah.
because I sent him a message. I was like, "What are we supposed to be doing right now?" And he's like, "Well, nothing because they won't let us, or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know." Um, but then AT came back at me and they showed me the different money of like, if you work here, this is what you get paid. The stipends, this, and
Yeah.
Nick knows this, but like I was like, I battled with it for like days because I was like, do I go to Addison? We went 4-5 at Easter Road. We were 6 points away from the playoffs. So if we would have beat Elgin, we would have been in. Blah blah blah
Right.
blah. It was my stomach churned. Just didn't want to leave, and then I had to because I was like, we have unfinished business. We were so freaking close my first year there because I liked what Nick was doing. I liked all of them. Then I felt bad
Right.
because he already had coaches leave. Like Will left to Wabanzi, another
Right.
coach really left, another coach left, and I'm like, well, then if I leave, it's going to be pressure on Nick. But I had to leave. It
Right.
sucks because it's money. You're looking at money, and you're like, well, if I go here, you know, the stipend
Yeah.
itself was like $4,000 more, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I need to leave. I need to go get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough, real tough.
That's how I felt when I left Burlington. I couldn't sleep at night. Um, I knew what we had coming up, and they're here now, and we should be okay. And um, I never really had a true quarterback in my program when I was the head coach. We have one now, Jackson, and I knew Jackson was coming up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I just, like, every season, I just see what's out there, and I'm just curious, who left, who didn't leave.
Mhm.
And I somehow Judson assistant popped up, and I'm like, Judson, like, how they have a football team? So I called Coach Path. I'm like, hey, can we talk? I just want to see what this is about. Like, what is it? And I'll never forget it. It was the last day before winter break, and it was the first day it just snowed.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is dumb. What am I doing? So my wife, I'm like, I don't want to go. Like,
Mhm.
she goes, just go, hear what they have to say. And it was supposed to be a 1 hour meeting. Walked into the room. A 1 hour meeting turned into a 4 hour meeting. I walked. I walked out. I go, holy cow! I think I'm leaving. And it took me a while to just kind of decipher what was happening in front of me. And obviously, long conversations. I called the AD. I go, hey, I don't know what's happening right now, but I have something working. And and he's just like, do what's best for you. He goes, if
Mhm.
that's, he's very supportive. And um, I did it, and I don't regret it at all. I do not regret my decision. Um, had I known the unforeseen circumstances, I may not have done that, but
Mhm.
um, I am glad that I did it. It was a blast. I had so much fun last year. So much fun.
Well, that's good because
Yeah,
you may regret it if you didn't. Let's say that none of that would have happened. You might have been like, it sucks. All those decisions just suck sometimes where you're
yeah,
like,
they
yeah,
do.
you got to make that decision. And like, I did the same thing at Easter War. It wasn't like I was leaving a powerhouse, but like I said, I just liked what was going on.
Right,
And the kids,
right.
it just felt like those kids needed like they needed you more than you needed them type of thing.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I was the new guy. Like I didn't work in the building. I came in for football practice. And
Hmm.
you know how it is. Those kids, like they tested me. And then as soon as I talked a certain way back to them that they weren't prepared
Right,
for, they respected you.
right.
And all of a sudden they had you. I think those kids
Yeah,
told me, hey, if you ever get in trouble in Aurora, call me. I got you. I'm like, oh, what did
yeah,
I just walk into? I was like,
right.
my God. I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
and one of my players from East Aurora has just become a really good friend, and throughout the years we kept in contact. I always said that he's my fifth son, my adopted son, and now he is the he coached for me at Central when he played at Quincy and would come in the summer and coach for me, and just that's when we were close, but then we just became friends. And uh, he's now runs a gym here I live in St. Charles, and runs a gym in St. Charles. And I send all my players to him.
Hmm.
He worked out my entire family last year, kids included. He's coaching defense over at St. Charles North.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's just the relationships that I built there is still last
Yeah.
everywhere really that I've been. But you know,
Yeah. Uh, but that was a hard one. And then I get to Addison. I'm like, oh, I'm dealing with the same kids, just not as street tough as East Aurora kids. They're just, it's
right,
the same uh demographic kind of. It's just I was like, oh, but I'm still trying to help rebuild this program. It hasn't made the playoffs since 2014. So like trying to get them back to where they need to be. And But I was the jerk that came in and wanted to change everything. I'm not even the head coach. I walked in and I said, "Hey, this crossover's stupid. Why do we have a permanent crossover? Hey, why do we do
Right.
this? This is stupid." And they were like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And I'm like, "Listen, I was at Lombard East with Coach Walters. He's got that thing turned around. I saw what he did. I
Yep.
went to East Aurora, learned what Nick was doing there. I said, I'm here. Like we got to go, and it's slowly happening. But I think the thing Addison was trying to do the whole school. So I coach basketball there now, so it's trying to do everything, and
Right.
and that makes it tougher. When it's just one program, it's tough enough. You try to do the whole school. Ooh, that's even tougher.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a one sport guy. I used to coach baseball, but I'm done with that. I always tell our baseball coach that I might come back and coach freshman baseball one year,
Yeah.
but I don't want to ride the bus and then get rained out and ride home. And, so
Well, I coach freshman baseball at York. The thing you're running into now is no umpires. So you have to do it with no umpire.
oh my gosh.
This was my second year. The first year we had to do 7 games without an umpire, I think.
Are you kidding me? That's like impossible.
So there's no umpires. There's none. We have the shortage, but like there's no umpires.
Yeah.
And so you won't know until you get there. Then somebody calls you and says, AD might call you and say, hey, there's no umpire. Then the team will show up and you tell the other coach, the other freshman coach, hey, there's no umpire. So you have to stand behind your pitcher and call balls and strikes there and then umpire everything else. And it sucks.
I couldn't do it.
Oh, it's nerve wracking. And I was freshman B, and it's nerve wracking. And so when that happened my first year, it happened 6 or 7 times. And I said, I have a whole new appreciation for these umpires. I'll never
Mm-hmm.
even get in an argument with one ever again. And I don't, not in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say anything.
Right.
They call a ball or a strike that I don't agree with, and the kids get mad. I go, oh, well, let's just keep playing. I'm not yelling at
Right.
them. I know what they're dealing with. I ain't doing it. Nope.
Right. Right.
Now, football and basketball, I might have a different opinion, but like so far with baseball, I'm like, nope. But that sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
That does suck.
Higher.
Yeah.
See, I don't recommend it yet. Wait till the refs come back, then go do it because that
I feel like all high schools should have like a referee class, get certified.
we're starting one at AT. I think the fall is the first one.
I know Burlington Central used to do it, but there's just such a need.
Yeah.
And it's scary, really.
We're trying to do a referee class, and they're trying to do an athletic training class for to be an athletic trainer because like we are supposed to have 2, and then we end up having 1 in the spring at AT, and then she left. So now we have like substitutes. They can't hire anybody. So that's a little scary too. Of like you can't hire 2 athletic trainers, and nobody was applying. So it's kind of scary that there's a shortage in that too. Welcome back to high school where you have shortages of everything.
I know. Well, we had shortages at Judson too, but
Well, that's the other thing going to York for baseball. I saw York's a whole different animal, but just seeing how they run the stuff too. I brought that over too, just seeing that. Coach Fitz does a good job with their football program, and I don't care if it's recorded or not. I know him. Our head coach knows him. So when I see him, I talk to him. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Because his office is right by Dave, the head baseball coach. So just you talk to him, and he'll go, oh, what's your numbers like? And I'm like, well, we're doing this, we're battling this. And I go, well, what's your numbers? And I'll never forget this, and I'll make fun of him. He took like a deep breath, and he goes, we're going to have like 200 some kids come out for football. And I go, your problems are not my problems. He's like, I don't know if I have enough helmets or shoulder pads. And I was like, again, your problems are not my problems. Like, if you don't want kids, have them go north a little bit to me and Addison, and they'll get playing time right away. Don't you worry about it.
Right.
Because they had like
struggled for a while.
Team. Yeah.
Yeah, then they're doing really well.
And they just had this big influx of that enrollment shot up. Their enrollment shot up. Their youth program changed a little bit. Then I think I can't quote this, but I think kids stopped going to IC and start staying at York a little bit. But they just have this big influx of talent coming in, and then that enrollment has to be close to 3,000 now, and it only used to be 20.
Oh wow,
it has to be, I think. And then Elmhurst is expensive to live in, but it's like they're selling houses left and right. My fiance's family lives in Elmhurst. We were just there yesterday. Their neighbor said one of their friends in Elmhurst put their house on the market and sold it in an hour.
Yeah, that's kind of the new trend, right? Our neighbors sold, and they didn't even. There wasn't even a sign outside. It's like, what just happened?
Yeah, we were going to buy one, but with the market, we're kind of waiting to see. Like the interest rate being 8%, we are like, nah, that's okay. Let's just we'll wait and see what happens. When
Wait
it
and see.
when it bursts, then we'll go.
Right,
Oh, that
right.
house was 400,000. Now it's 200,000, and interest rate is 3%. We're on it. Like, give me that
Done.
house.
Yeah, done. Done.
Our neighbors in our apartment building bought a house during COVID 2020, and their interest rate was 1% because of COVID.
Oh, jeez.
And we should have jumped on something then, but we didn't.
Right.
But who knew what COVID was going to do? We didn't know. We thought we were going to have sports in the fall too, and look what happened to that.
Yeah, that's. I'll never forget that time ever in my life.
Oh, that's
That was.
that's where all my gray hairs came from. I cut my hair to hide them. Like that's where it all
Yeah,
came from. I think.
yeah. It was tough as a head coach, because nobody gave us a playbook on how to manage a football team
No.
during times like that, and you just kind of just trial and error. And you guys were not allowed to be on Zoom. We had kids doing push-ups on Zoom,
Mhm.
so everybody did something different.
Well, yeah. When I got to Addison, he was like, "Yeah, we've been on Zoom this whole time, and we're doing workouts on Zoom, and it was real dumb. I'd hop
Mm.
on, just sitting just like this, watching them work out. I go, what are we doing
Yeah,
right
that's
now?"
what are we doing? Yeah, that was weird.
Or like the kids were outside doing jumping jacks. I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing right now? So then the coach was like, oh, we need to work out with them. And I was like, I ain't putting the camera there and working out. I'm going to sit my big ass right here and watch. Like, I'll go out and jog, but I ain't going to do that. Or, oh, there's so many stupid things that happened and I can't, I'll get in trouble, but so many stupid things that happened. Uh, the pod thing didn't make sense to me.
I remember that.
We could only be in groups of 10 and we had to be 6 feet away from each other in a big
Oh
circle.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, the coach could be in the middle and everybody else had to be 6 feet apart while we were outside. And I went, why? What are we doing?
right.
Like, what can we work out? We could do jumping jacks, push ups, burpees,
Mm.
or bring the weight. I don't know if you guys we could bring the weights outside if we wanted, but then we had to make sure they were clean.
Yeah, they didn't let us, so that
I
was
think we
tough.
could.
That was tough.
They were like, but then like you have to drag everything out, and then you got to drag it back in. So we're like, this is stupid. We're not doing that.
Right.
Uh, And then I got COVID the first day that Illinois allowed sports. It was that first day that gets our basketball practice.
Oh my gosh.
It was the first day. I woke up with a major, major headache, and I just assumed it was
Mm.
from this, like being on a computer every day.
Right, right, right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm taking the day off. I'm not going to go to work, put in a sick day. Then I'll go to basketball practice. It was at Nequa. And I was like, I'll go later. Fiance wakes up and she goes, why aren't you going to work? And I'm like, I have a headache. I'm just going to relax today till basketball. And she goes,
Right.
I have a headache too. And she was like, let's just go get tested. And we were so positive that it was nothing. We got the
Mm.
test, swung into Duncan, came home. About an hour later, ding, ding, you've tested positive. And I was like, oh, shit. So
Yeah.
I had to call Coach Sutton at Nico and be like, listen, it was my first day. I had never coached there before. It was supposed to be my first day. And I was like, hey,
Right.
you got COVID. I can't be there. And I was waiting to get reamed, because I have no idea. I didn't know exactly who he was.
Yeah.
I've talked to him, but like, and he goes, oh, thank God, because you would have shut us down if you showed up.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just crazy, crazy times.
And the Super Bowl with wings, couldn't taste them. I had no taste for a month. And it was just like, and talking to these college coaches too, they have way bigger stories going across the country. They tell me stories that were just,
Yeah.
he said they'd be in Illinois doing all those restrictions. They go across the border to Wisconsin and they were like, no masks. And they just walk in, they'd be like, what's going on here? And
Yeah.
like,
I hated those masks. I hated it with a passion.
so you
And
actually had to travel for recruiting, right, at Judson, or could you just call
mhm.
people?
So I traveled a little bit. I didn't travel a lot. I would go to local high schools, just around town. West, like I think I went to West Aurora. Um, Tried to hit the schools that were in my radius, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't. travel out. I was supposed to go to Georgia with the coaches, but I couldn't get off of work. And then, which I was super bummed about because I really wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it was right after Thanksgiving break, and you're not allowed to take days off after a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, that sucks. But it was more just the traveling of from Central to Judson to driving around campus. And like I said, I like to drive to games and get my mind right. And
Mm-hmm.
driving to Indiana, and I met, there's some beautiful campus out there that I had no idea was even there. Our first game was at Taylor University in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a 1 lane road all the way there. Once you get past what is that, Valpo, and you're driving, you're like, where am I here, and where are we going?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, it's just boom. There's just gorgeous campus. They built a brand new stadium, so it was like their opening of this new stadium, and it was gorgeous. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. Uh, we played our home games at Streamwood High School, so uh, they have a turf facility at Judson now. Hopefully, they can build a stadium around it. But our campus at Judson was beautiful too. It's right on Fox River, lined by all those trees,
Uh-huh.
and there's a beautiful turf facility right there. Um, so yeah. Oh, we were not before that was done. We were practicing at a local high school, so it's just driving all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. That year I coached all three sports at different high schools. Even though I live in Naperville, but like, Neek was on the other side of Naperville,
Yeah.
driving to Addison to work, dropping off at York. Oh, it's exhausting. Like the drive. I like just being in one spot.
Yes, that's kind of why I stayed at Central this year. I could have done it again this year, but like I said, I, I was thankful that they asked, but I just was like, I can't do it this year, and we'll reevaluate after the year. So see what happens.
Yeah, because I know some coaches that do what you do, and they don't travel as much for recruiting. That's why I was curious. They're like, yeah, we do a lot of
Mm,
messaging and stuff because they work at a high
yeah,
school or they work at a middle school, and they just kind of they don't have to drive around. And they're like, so that was nice. Like the full time guys do, but the rest they don't have to.
oh yeah, and they work so hard. It's
Oh yeah, especially with the
but
transfer
it's
portal stuff.
yeah, and it's fun when I was sitting in the office and I would have a day off and I go sit there all day. I'm like, yeah, this is the life. This is
Hmm.
just sit there all day long, and you're talking football, you're watching film, you're recruiting, there's some there's some shenanigans that go on too, and
Oh yeah.
it's so fun.
Well, that used to be the goal. Now I'm about to be 33. I'm like, I just talked to Coach Nick Davis. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to find a GA, and he's at Ottawa, and he's like, yeah, it's $6,000. And so he was like, what's your stipend? So I had to tell him. He's like, yeah, just stay where you're at because the stipend
Mhm.
was higher to do high school. I was like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, they luckily I was able to be similar to what I was making at high school, and then I got that raise, and
Hmm.
obviously made more. But uh, yeah, it was a nice little paycheck that came in every month. I got paid monthly, so
Hmm. Yeah, ours is every 2 weeks, which is nice.
yeah. Well, I would get paid every 2 weeks from Central, and then I would get that extra,
Oh yeah,
check from Judson. That was also always cool. So
yeah, yeah. Because sometimes the guys that do what you did, they were like, yeah, it's a little bit better. It's like coaching high school, but I get to do college stuff, and so it's really awesome. I get both
right,
worlds. I work at the high school, and then I will do this. Um,
yeah,
what is it? Saint Not Saint Francis, Saint Xavier. A lot some do that. I think
yeah.
there.
I mean, and there's some really good programs in our conference, like St. X and St. Francis Joliet. A funny story about that. We were playing St. Francis Joliet at home, and the safety was I don't want to say his name, but I played against his dad in college. His dad went to Augie, and after the game, I went and said hi to the dad, said hi to the kids. Both played. He had two kids there, and the next day, the kid DM'd me, and he goes, "Hey, coach, who was that girl standing on the sideline? Did she have a boyfriend?" This is like a St. Francis player, and I'm like, that is just the coolest thing because that's it's not high school. Like this kid could have saw this girl and got married, and I
Mhm.
somehow played a part in it. And just like the gall of the kid to just DM me out of the blue and ask about a girl that was on our sidelines. I thought that's really fun, really cool. Uh, but like, yeah, man, that's our GA's girlfriend. He goes, oh, okay. So, so I told our GA, I'm like, hey, the safety who had a really good game against us watching girls. It was funny.
I'd be thinking like a high school, like, shut up, don't worry about that right now. In college, you don't
Yeah,
have to do that. You're just kind of like, oh, that's okay. High school, you're like, shut
yeah,
up.
yeah. It was really funny. I'll never forget that.
Well, that was like, you have adult conversation with high school kids, college. It's crazy. Like
Oh yeah.
what you could talk about or what they talk about with you, I should say.
Well, I mean, even just like, yeah, I went out last night and I was drinking. And it's like you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, you're 28 years old. Of course you can do that. Um, so we had, with all the COVID season and all the red shirting and um, we had guys. I think we had our oldest one at Judson last year was 29. Graduated. It was a phenomenal defensive end for us. And even our All American running back, he is 23, I think, um, and he's only a sophomore. And it's like, wow, I had no idea what level they or what grade they were because you just think about it as their age, 16, they're
Hmm.
probably a sophomore, and these kids they're men and they're not kids, they're men. And
Hmm.
you try to mold them like you do a high school kid, but it's a different type of
Right.
mentorship. I mean, you're really mentoring them for after football.
Right.
And, as a high school coach, you're constantly trying to get them recruited. But once they go there, it's like next level stuff,
Hmm.
next level problems. Um, you know, we didn't really have any discipline problems where it was like you hear on the news, but you hear about stuff and you're like, wow, we have to talk about that, in
Hmm.
a different way, like a man to man way, not a man to a high school kid way.
Hmm.
So
Or
there's all,
without administration getting involved either. You're like in high school, like it's
yeah,
way different.
it is. And um, I had all the running backs over for dinner, and my wife loves just when you play for me, you're going to be a part of my family, and my kids know you, my wife knows you, and she loves cooking for all of them, and they came over and they're like, we've never had food this good before in our entire life, and it's like, oh, they're coming from you know some really awful places, and
Hmm.
football is their only way out,
Yep.
and so every time they would see her, they're like, is Mrs. Coach bringing cookies today? And every once in a while, I'd have to bring cookies to practice. Now I'm that guy, and just take one. But they're broke, man. They have no money, and
Yeah.
they're living away from home, and any sort of homemade food to them is amazing. I remember when I was playing college, my grandma and grandpa every month sent me a letter because that's what everybody used to do. And there was a every time there was a $20 bill in there, and I got to a point where I expected it, and I'm like, all right, $20 coming here in a couple weeks, um, but they don't have stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
They don't have anything really. The Bears gave us some spikes, kind of like when Kurt was the head coach at East Aurora. Quinton Demps, who's the head coach at Judson, played for the Bears.
Hmm.
Went to the equipment guy. I can't remember the equipment guys. He's been there forever at the Bears. Came back with boxes and boxes of gloves and cleats and slides, and you know they go crazy over it because they don't have anything.
Right.
Uh, I've always been a guy wear your school colors guy. Just like I told you when we were talking earlier. Didn't allow anybody to wear black when I was in Central High School or head coach at Central because it just wasn't a school color. Um, and I was adamant about that, and I got crap for it, but I didn't care. Like it's part of building the culture.
Hmm.
And when when I got to my first meeting at Judson, I'm like, all right, you're gonna wear school colored spikes, gloves. You're not gonna wear any other color than gold, navy, or white. And after the meeting, Coach Fitz, who's over at St. Francis Joliet now, his defense coordinator, goes, Brian, he goes, they don't have money to buy this stuff. So it really was an adjustment for me. You have a kid out there wearing neon green shoes, and I hate that,
Hmm.
but I learned to accept it. And I don't know. I told my wife if I'm ever a head coach again, I may be a little more lax on that. But then I got back to Central, and Yo said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Like,
Yeah,
wear your school colors.
yeah, yeah. That's how York is with baseball. They have to wear the Kelly green undershirt. They got to have the socks. They got to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then at
Yeah.
AT, we're trying to get there, but AT is the same thing. Like they don't have it, and so we're trying to get to that point where we provide it now. Like we're getting to that
Mm-hmm.
point because we want to do the
Right.
same thing, but we have to take a deep breath and be like, "You really came in red shorts and we're blue and gold."
I
Like,
can't stand it. I can't stand it. Yeah.
or here's the best part: we had a kid move to Addison from Glenbard West. He's a running back. Comes into the weight room first day of the summer. He's got Glenbard West shorts on. We were like, "Get out, go get out." We got to find him shorts. We were like, "Nope."
Right. Right.
No offense to Glenbard West, because obviously that's a great dominant program, but we were like, nope, get
Mm-hmm.
out. You can't be wearing
Yep.
that here.
Yep.
We were like, same thing with Glenbard West. You came in with Addison Trail stuff on. We all know he would be like, get out.
Oh yeah, get out. Go get him some shorts. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Thursday. We need it. The, I love that you're able to go 11 on 11 now
Yep.
during summer.
Yep.
You know, I team camped all the time when I was at Central, and I never broke the rules. And uh, you can stretch rules, you can't break the rules, and I just wouldn't do it. Um, and but everybody did, and I'm glad that they saw that, and it's just better for the kids because we don't have a week zero game, so to say, or a preseason game, and I think it prepares them better
Yep.
to um, be ready for week one and maybe save some of those dumb injuries because they don't know how to take a hit.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that they allowed the high schools to go 11 on 11 now.
Yeah. And it's controlled. Like us coaches, we're all on the same page. It's a very controlled
Yes.
environment. And that's how it was at Matia. Coach Parpa did a good job. He was very controlled. We all had whistles. We knew, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. First time our kids got hit all summer. And so it was a nice eye opening thing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be that way Thursday. It's great because there's going to be four schools,
Mm-hmm.
so it's going to be
Right.
like we saw I can't remember your guys' defense coordinator's name.
Let's go.
Yeah, he was
Nick
the one.
Scolari. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was he came up to me and Chris. So what front you want to see? We'll give you any front. And I was like, do what you guys need to do. Don't worry about like work on what you need to work on. And like what's going to be cool about it is we're going to tell you guys certain spots. Be like, hey, if you need to stop and coach, stop and
Yep.
coach. Like it's going to
Yep.
be very
I
cool.
laugh. I laugh because Nick Scolari is so dear to me. Um, and I was telling a story about him today. He was he was on the Marmion State team
Hmm.
that lost, I believe, Boylan. Went on to play at North Dakota State and showed up at East Aurora one day because Coach Becker, and he had moved back home and coached for us. And I knew day one that he was smarter than me. I knew it. But he was so smart that he didn't really understand how to say what he needed to say to the kids,
Uh-huh.
especially at East Aurora.
Oh
I
yeah.
like to think of it. I think of it as like a Rolodex. He had to like go through it before something came out. And then I was just telling the story today to one of our new coaches at Central. I didn't let him talk in our meetings. I didn't let him say anything. If he said something, I would just brush it off because I knew he was smarter than me, but I wanted him to earn it. And I knew that if I was going to be a head coach, he was going to be my defense coordinator. We were playing, I think, Matia one game, and I actually put him on timeout during the game because he's a young kid, and he was just chirping and chirping. I'm
Yeah.
like, Sco, I'm like, if you say one more thing, I'm putting you in timeout. And he he's yelling about it today at practice when I was talking about it. He goes, an offensive lineman blocked my safety, and he went crazy. And I go, you're in timeout. And you know what he did though? He went and sat on the bench on timeout and did what he was supposed to do, and he earned that respect of mine where I knew that he was going to be my guy. I told him when I was a head coach that if I became head coach, I was going to get him his first job, and his first year he's going to be a defense coordinator. And I was able to do that, and to see him grow up from being a college football player trying to be a coach out of a great program at North Dakota State, and to what he is now, he's a grown man, and it just like just so thankful that he is a part of my coaching career. And I don't know if he's under my tree. I don't know how that works, but just so proud of him. And man, he is so good. He is so good at what he does. And now the kids, the way he coaches and the way he talks is still super smart.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm like, it's like Billy Madison. Sometimes I'm like, slow down, you know. Um, but it just it makes my heart happy that he's doing so well, and is a respected coordinator at this point now too over at Central. You know, he man, just to hear that story of you telling him that about me just makes me happy.
Yeah, I just told him to take it easy on me because my offensive line is going to be hit or miss. If I have them all there, I'll be okay. If not, I said, you got to take it easy on me, man. And he was like, but he was more worried about like, well, if you want to see an odd man front, if you want to see an even man front, I got it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
don't worry. Like, we'll figure it out. It's okay. We'll be just
Yeah,
fine.
he runs my defense still, but he took it to a whole nother level. Like, um, it was an easy transition to Central back for me defensively because I mean it's my defense, but he took it to a whole nother level. When we've always been a multiple front defense, but he's way better at it than I am. So, um, yeah, and our defensive line, unfortunately, is one of our strengths over at Central right now. So they're really good. Um, we have some dudes over there.
Well, we'll be pretty similar with numbers wise. I think we were talking to Yos about it. Um, because like I said, our sophomore class is big. It's junior, senior class. They're killing us a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, in our quarterback situation, you'll see we have a quarterback that looks pretty good, and you might be like, "Why is he not the starting quarterback?" And we're going to say, "Well, he's a sophomore. We don't want to." I'm trying
yeah,
to figure out how to figure that part out. I guarantee that's what's going to happen. We're like, "Why isn't he not starting?" Well, and I can't say on
not
air,
ready.
but
Yeah,
we because all four of them, all four quarterbacks, we're trying to because it was that fall after COVID, and we went through five quarterbacks that year, five that
okay,
fall. And our quarterback, their starting quarterback, second quarter gets jaw broken. Kid comes down with his head down, breaks his jaw. Next game, our backup quarterback's not doing very good. So we put in a sophomore, breaks his collarbone. We had to put back in the backup quarterback. He gets hurt a couple weeks later. So then we got to look at two wide receivers and say, you two got to flip flop and keep going. Like we got to rotate you to
right.
quarterback. We went into the Leiden game and we're like, we can't throw the ball more than 4 yards. So we don't know what we're going to
Been
do.
there,
Oh,
been there.
watching it, I was like watching them throw 4 yards. I'm like, I could throw better, and I'm an offensive lineman. Like,
Right.
what are we doing here? So it was like a wildcat offense the entire game. Oh, so after that year, we said we will never go into a game without quarterbacks ready to go. So like we've
Mhm.
got four right now, and we're like, we will make sure we've got quarterbacks because we're never doing that
Yeah,
again, ever.
yeah. I take that back. I did have a quarterback, but he was more. He's great high school quarterback, but he's more. He could probably excelled at outside linebacker
Mhm.
more. You know, so it wasn't really like a true kid that goes to the coaching academy or the trainers.
Yeah,
Like Central has one of those kids now, and it's great. It
yeah.
just changes your whole way you can think about offense.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. And we got a kid that volunteered for quarterback. He's a junior. He was our starting safety last year. He was going to be probably our slot receiver. When we realized we didn't know who our quarterback was, he came up to us. He goes, "Whatever you guys need, I'll do it. I'll volunteer to be quarterback because we have to win games." And
right,
so we were like, "We love that attitude." So
yep.
we're trying him. His brother was the one that got his jaw broken. So like he at least has
Mhm.
seen his brother play quarterback and like has an idea. But we're still like, oh shit. Like even though you're volunteering to do it, man, it's a whole because we saw Mattia was his first eye-opening experience of like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what pressure is when they're rushing you. This is
Yeah.
what stunts are up front. You saw this linebacker walk up, and all of a sudden he's run all the way over here, and the lineman like
Mhm.
that was the first time, and so he'd freak out and throw it. And that was the first coaching point of me showing him, yeah, you might only get 2.5 seconds to throw this ball, but here's your pocket. Like you're just running away from the pocket. Or like you see the tackle come flying up. Well, my offensive tackle should be taking him that away so you could step up. It was just his first eye
Mhm.
opening experience because it's easy in practice in 7-on-7. Boom, boom, boom. You get the big
Right.
lineman from a Tia running at you. It was boom. His eyes were like, oh shit.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Well, Coach, I took a lot of your time. I appreciate you so
Yep.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. It gives me an opportunity also to say why I'm back at Central, and thank you to Judson, and thank you to Coach Yost for writing that love letter. And um, you know, I'm back to be under. I'm happy to be back under the lights. I kind of realize that that's kind of where I belong, and um, I love it. I love high school football. There's just college was fun, but there's nothing like the lights, and I can't wait.
It's the best. Nothing like
Yep,
it.
sure is. All right, Coach. Thank you so much. I'll see you Thursday.
Yep. Thank you.